I cannot believe it has been 5 years. 5 years ago today, the switch was made in Flint, and we all remember that video.
Here's the Flint.
Flint, here.
Politicians gathered in the water plant, raising their glasses, drinking that Flint River water. It was a moment of celebration for them, but the people of Flint had no idea in that moment that their lives were going to change forever. I remember it was January 2016, early January, and my boss called myself, Kevin Dietz, Karen Drew into her office, and she said, listen, I know we've been covering Flint here and there, but I'm hearing now that things have taken a turn, that it's an emergency in Flint, and people are desperate and they need help. And I need you guys to go up there and just tell me what you see, and then we can figure out a game plan. And I said, I'll go up, I'll check it out today. And I drove from downtown Detroit. It took just, over an hour. And I thought, I'm sure it's going to be challenging. They probably had some issues, but how bad is it? I just didn't know. And when I got off the exit in downtown Flint and turned onto Saginaw Street and made my way towards downtown, I couldn't believe what I saw. It was a cold day, it was snowing, and there were just people everywhere standing in long lines that were as far as the eye could see, and it was mothers standing there with their kids and elderly people from Flint, and they were all standing in these long lines just to get a case of water. It was snowing, it was cold, it looked like a third world country. And I say that having traveled to India, right? So when I saw this playing out in Flint, Michigan, I was angry.
Governor, with all due respect, what is taking so long? I mean, you say that you've learned about the situation in its entirety in October. Today at fire stations, there's no water, there's no filter at many stations. People outside tell us that they feel helpless, they feel stranded, and frankly, they don't believe you anymore. At what point do things change? Why isn't FEMA out here right now with trucks handing out water to people that need it?
Well, again, I think you're going to find the fire stations hopefully do have water and filters.
They don't today.
We started ramping up. Again, this whole process in terms of providing resources to people, we had been doing that for months, but we need to do more. And so that's the whole process. That was part of the declaration done by the mayor, followed by the county, followed by the state, and we're going through the appropriate protocols to get that done with the federal government.
But it's not working. There's no water right now at the fire station on Atherton Road. There's no filters. So whatever you've been doing is not working.
Well, we're continuing to work hard. It shows there's demand, and we're going to continue to step up our efforts to make sure we take care of that.
Nothing was being done to help these people. And the governor said, we're doing what we can. But in that moment, I was so mad at every politician, every leader, Democrat, Republican, the mayor, the governor, everybody, because it was clear that these people were in desperate need of help, and so little was being done to help them.
It is not fixed. It's not okay. Families are suffering.
Do you do this every time you make Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
When it really hit home for me was when we had an opportunity to go into homes, and families were kind enough to let us into their homes and show what the problem was like. The water smelled. It was brown. There were kids and adults that had rashes all over their bodies, and this was from drinking water. This is from drinking water in the state of Michigan, where we have the Great Lakes. And I would go home at night and I would turn on my tap, and just 30, 40 miles away, my water was just fine. And yet these people were being poisoned, and their stories were devastating.
The American dream, to be financially stable, they've suffocated us out.
How can you say it's safe to move back into my home if I still have elevated levels of lead? And she said, well, per our program, we've done all that we can.
Early on during these press conferences, it was basically us and a few of the Flint stations. And then kudos to Rachel Maddow, because she really started telling the story of Flint every night on MSNBC. And eventually the press conferences went from the Detroit stations and the Flint stations. Grand Rapids got thrown in. Chicago came in, the networks came to town, and now we have basically all eyes on Flint, and it was a national emergency. And I thought, well, surely now the problem's going to get fixed because so much attention is being paid to Flint. But that didn't happen.
I've been trying so hard to do everything right, and then this.
The doctor told her that she would grow out of it, but she didn't.
Then the 2016 election really started amping up, and then candidate Donald Trump made his way to town. He was in a Flint church. Democratic candidate Bernie Sanders made his way to town. Secretary of State, Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton made her way to town. The Democratic debate was in Flint at the University of Michigan. I can remember driving through downtown Flint and seeing Secretary Clinton shooting a television commercial. And then I thought at that moment, well, now this is going to be fixed because now we've got every politician here in the city. They're all focusing their energy on this problem. They've all made these grand promises to fix the problem in Flint. And then nothing was done. Nothing.
I have a lot of information to take back to my celebrity friends and people around the world who want to help.
Big name celebrities made their way to town. Of course, you'd expect Michael Moore, he was there, but people like Snoop Dogg, different artists and musicians, and they were bringing attention to the problem. And people like Cher, donating huge amounts of water to Flint, and it did so much to help people for the short term. We decided we needed to do something. We partnered with Art Van, and we got thousands of cases of water to Flint. Detroiters were so generous in making those donations. We have been getting huge donations all day long, and the great news is that so many of those donations are being doubled. And then we held a telethon, and we raised money for people to get water, and that helped in the short term. There's been so much good that has been done to help the people of Flint, but here we are now, 5 years later. And while many pipes have been changed, while progress has been made, there have been some good moments. The reality is the majority of people in Flint still do not trust the water. And some never will. And think about it. Would you? If you had a baby and every elected official came to town and told you the water was okay, would you let your baby drink that water today? I don't know if I would. But through all the negative and the horrible tragedy of Flint, there have been so many lessons learned and bright lights. People like Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha. She's the pediatrician who first exposed the problem. And I've gotten to know Dr. Mona, and I can tell you there is no finer person. And it's people like Dr. Mona who are going to be the ones that are eventually going to help the people of Flint solve this problem once and for all, and who are there every day on the ground making sure that the people that are still dealing with the health effects of this poisoning, that they get the help they need. So what I want you to remember on this important day is that the problem isn't over yet, but there are ways you can help. We're very thankful to corporations that have been donating water to help the people in Flint. We're optimistic about the future, but the reality is the people in Flint still need your help. So whether it's making a donation to a food bank or working with one of the organizations affiliated with Dr. Mona and her team to help solve the problem moving forward, what we'll do is we'll put links to important organizations doing good work on our website, clickondetroit.com. Because what I want you to remember on this day is that we can never forget what happened in